the previous cohorts, Vanda Alvast was a fellow at Iron Wolf Capital, and she actually got a job in the VC that she was interning with. Also, Jere Partanen, who's a principal in Sisu Game Ventures, used to be a fellow of Paul Bragiel, and he's now having a full-time VC position. And we also have examples like
the way you understand your way around the ever-changing law and numbers is amazing, especially for due diligence for a VC fund that's located in one of the strictest places in the world. You're also a special guest who is the Chief Program Officer of a Venture Capital Fellowship Program and one of my favorite mentors. Triin, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Suan.
Yeah, let's go back to the start of your journey. What was the first time you've known about venture capital and thought, hey, it's pretty cool?
Already when I studied law, obviously, if it comes to corporate law and everything, venture capital and private equity is big part of it. And I recall in university, it sounded really like fancy and far away. And back then, I was more like thinking that I would love to become a dispute lawyer. So that didn't really interest me as much. But life brought me to like corporate and M&A and then naturally to VC. Life has its ways sometimes, leading us to things that we don't even know that we love and that actually interest us. So that's kind of how it found me more, I would say.
And you really found venture capital through law, the law path that you're pursuing. And you've did a lot of education for quite a while. So it was like, hey, you did your bachelor's and then you did your master's. And you've been in law for quite a while. So talk about from that moment when you kind of heard about venture capital to that journey when you became a VC.
Um, I became or got involved in VC also naturally, like more organically through my network, actually. So I started at a law firm, worked a couple of years in the Baltics' biggest law firm. Then I went to a little adventure to Asia. In Bali, I managed international consulting company. So we also helped startups and starting entrepreneurs to start their businesses in Asia. And once I quit my corporate job in Bali, VC found me actually. So I already had the network in startup ecosystem and overall business ecosystem in the Baltics, and my good friend and now also colleague Kadri Harma actually hit me up with the opportunity that they just needed somebody to help them with the compliance in Gobeyond Capital, a VC firm in Estonia. And then as a part of that, Kadri, Härma-Kärt, Silats and Paul Rajel also had already started a one-on-one fellowship VC internship program that you mentioned, that was their passion project, and they also had asked me to help to lead that project.
The craziest thing is that for most people, VC isn't something that they just like go for straight up. It's really just like, hey, I've came from different paths and then somehow, in my network, I know somebody and then I joined VC. Because VC is really kind of a private community in a way where it's like, VCs only post internships to their own network if they have like a social account. They won't just like do a LinkedIn job posting or something like that. Or, they might post a job for an associate or analyst in their network. So unless you're actually in that network, you really wouldn't know. And the amazing thing about, Trin's journey is that she really started from the Baltics and then she went international. Like she went international to start this consultancy at Bali, and that's just like you move to a different country to start over, like everything, and then it's like you have to um start everything from the ground up, and that's just like such a difficult thing for people to do. Like I know you mentioned the one-on-one fellowship. Could you talk more about this VC program?
Yeah, one-on-one fellowship is VC internship program, and it's actually a perfect way for anyone to break into VC. There are like plenty of VC programs like globally around the world, but one-on-one fellowship is very unique because it combines the theoretical like learning sessions with practical experience in VC fund. So most of the VC programs that are available there, like in Europe, one of the biggest one is Included VC that's run by Seedcamp. They're big cohorts, very good information, but there is no practical work in VC. So that keeps the program quite small. It gives you the opportunity to really closely network and build your connections with the VC that you work with, and also other VCs that are in the program. And even though the program is, like I mentioned, placement, it doesn't mean physical placement. So the program is virtual and it's global. So we have fellows globally all around the world, as VCs. So just to name a few, obviously we have Rachel Brothers, one of the VCs. Founded by one of the founders of One-on-One Fellowship, Paul Bragiel from the US. Then we've had Envy, that's like gaming fund of fund from Japan. We've had Savannah Fund from Africa. We've had funds from Europe, like Smoke Ventures from Poland, um, Iron Wolf Capital from Lithuania, from Rim Capital, so Space Tech Fund, one of the biggest in Europe, that's based in Stockholm, and now they're also in Paris. So yeah, the list can go on and on. It's a very global network, and I'm really happy also to see how the fellows themselves, even after the cohorts, like keep in touch and meet up and communicate with the fellows from the following cohort. So it's a very cool network, and everybody's happy to help and share their experience.
Yeah, and I've also personally been a part of this one-on-one fellowship program, and the experience that I really had there was amazing because it was different from just like going to one VC firm. It was they got like weekly sessions where it's like you go from A to Z of learning the foundations of venture capital from different mentors, and this is different VCs globally, and then you also work directly with one of the VC firms that one-on-one fellowship partners with, and that could be, for example, in your weekly sessions, you learn from tons of different VCs about A to Z, and then in in your firm that you work in, you probably work on maybe one or two specific tasks, could be a little more, but it's really that rounded out experience where it's like they give you the full foundation of the weekly meetings, and then you also get that hands-on approach for the VC firm. And the amazing thing about this program that I actually joined was, at first I was like, it's a global program. So we, one-on-one fellowship kind of partnered with 20 plus VC firms, and then there are like 30 plus country applicants. Um, and that's crazy because we get really diversity. We get people who thinks differently. And for the people who actually joins, could you talk about some stories of how they've gone on to become VCs?
Yeah, sure. From from the previous cohorts, Wanda Alwast was a fellow at Iron Wolf Capital, and she actually got the job in the VC that she was interning with. Also, Jere Partanen, who's a principal in Sisu Game Ventures, used to be a fellow of Paul Bragiel. So, and he's now having a full time VC position, and he's been also really cool to help us with mentoring the fellows in one-on-one fellowship and leading some sessions. We also have examples like you had already interviewed with Max and Colette, who both have been also part of one-on-one fellowship. It definitely helps building network, building your connections, just opening more doors. And also Smoke Ventures, who's been one of the VCs participating in the program, has hired several people who have interned with them. And even if the fellowship doesn't lead you to the job in the VC, it can open different doors. So Paul Bragel's always been like really supportive if he really likes the fellow and sees the potential, like then he helps them to get a job in portfolio companies or any other opportunities that can be interesting. So um, it can be similar to my own experience that that sometimes you don't know which doors like will open. Like if you even if you think that you walk the way that might sound interesting for you, there can be other different paths. So one of Paul's intern from back of the days, like he became one of the first 10 employees of Uber. So that's I think a pretty good landing, even if the person maybe was into VC, but ended up in Uber. So yeah, it's definitely a very unique opportunity to build your network that will lead to opportunities in the future.
Yeah, and that's the thing about VC is that VC comes from every type of people, and it's like after VC, you can kind of go into every type of path as well. Um, just for reference, for our audience, Paul Brago is a 9x VC fund founder. So he is basically, working in 9 VC funds. Um, and that's amazing. Like, someone who is a partner of so much funds basically means that he had so much success. And Paul, he actually had backed, I think, more than 10 unicorns. So that is the type of co-founders that is in the one-on-one fellowship. Um, could you talk about, I don't know if you know this, but the key reasons why Yuri and Vanda was kind of became a VC after their internship? Like, what was the key reasons and key decisions that really got them that role?
Obviously, they're very hardworking and very resilient people who were willing to put in a lot of work. So if you guys want to check out also, I think we have in our fellowship YouTube channel or on LinkedIn a video with Yera where he actually shares about his internship experience, and he says that sometimes it really felt like running against the wall and like doing tasks that felt impossible to complete successfully, but he was just resilient and kept going. And that's generally like a business and startup life, right? I think there are not many founders or people who are successful in business that just gave it one shot and like founded a unicorn. That's there. That's I don't say that it's impossible, but I think it's like one in a million. So it takes a lot of resilience and hard work. And the same for Wanda. They're really willing to put in the work. doing what they say they're gonna do, being useful, really picking up what kind of help the VCs need. So um, yeah, initiative is something that is really appreciated and valued, and ability to be useful. So I sometimes see that young people who are very talented and they have an amazing resume, they are also really picky with what they want to do. Like that they want VC, but they want to do some investment analysis, etc. But the real life is very different from that. So if it's your dream to really break into VC, you have to be willing also to do monkey work, to do stuff that's not always so interesting. I mean, I think every week I do something that I'm sometimes also thinking that, like, oh, that could be done with somebody who is like much less experience, but you know, somebody in the VC also has to do it. And if they're smaller firms, you just have to take on anything, and to be able to willing to take on that. So yeah, I think Jera and Vanda both really had that quality of resilience, hard work, also very good communication skills and people reading skills. Like they understand what was helpful, what was expected from them. So
Yeah,
there's no babysitting in VC.
100%. I also watched the Yuri's video, and he was like, VCs, they kind of expect you to fail in your VC internship. Like they're not expecting much, but they see potential in you. So what they actually want from you by the time of the end of your VC internship, they want to see that you've actually shown that initiative, and the fact that you actually shown that although the VC probably gave you tons of tasks, maybe you failed in even 75%. Let's say that. Because Yuri was like, hey, I failed in most of my VC tasks that was given to me in my VC internship. So, but I still got the role. Like now he is a principal at Sisu Game Ventures. Um, and one of the investors in Sisu, the VC fund, is also Supercell, and we all know what Supercell is. Uh, so yeah, it's like VCs really expect you to fail, and just really go for it. Show that initiative. See what's missing in um, the VC firm and help them with that. I know you've looked at thousands and thousands of applications to this program. When you really look at that resume, what is that top three things that you look for to determine who is right as a VC intern at the fellowship?
In one of my fellowship, like the first thing I actually look is what the VC is looking for and whether the candidate is a match. So you can have an amazing resume, but if VC is looking for somebody doing like marketing or doing something else that doesn't align with your profile, as amazing as your profile can be, it uh, yeah, it doesn't fit. And that also includes the industry. So there we have some industry agnostic VCs, but most of the VCs have their have their sector. Like it's either health or games or Smok, who's been part of one fellowship for years as well. They invest into the founders who have Central and Eastern Europe background. So very, very specific like thesis. So it's always beneficial to target. Um, Targets may be wrong word, because like you can't really fake it till you make it with very technical stuff like health tech and industries like that. But really to bring out that part of you, the curious part of you that loves the industry and why. So yeah, first is like really to see if there is a match. Secondly, the interest in the VC world in general. So, and we usually really like to see that the person has put some effort in to educate themselves or to get involved in the VC already before they apply to one-on-one fellowship. It doesn't mean that we don't accept anybody uh, who doesn't have any experience, but we at least would love to see that the person has really put in effort to get to know the word, and there is like sincere interest in there. And thirdly, uh, I don't I don't want to sound woo woo, but we also look at energy. So not all the functions in the VC, but a lot of VC work involves like networking, communication. So it's really, really beneficial if the person has like the outgoing energy, and you see that the person is a good communicator and can approach people and be successful in social settings. Again, it doesn't mean that all the positions are like that. Like last cohort, we had one VC who was looking for a very academic candidate to do like deep research. So for that candidate, it didn't really matter if the person was outgoing and an extrovert, but yeah, it's definitely one thing that helps.
That's a really, really good view into what and how VCs really select their people. Now, obviously, they have like specific criterias that they want, and this is like the most important because it really filters out like 90, 80% of the applicants there are. So you might be the most talented, or you might have someone else who's an applicant who has like the top of everything. But they might not even be a fit for those criteria. You may be. So that's why it doesn't matter like how you think, how much you think the other persons, the other applicants are qualified. Like literally, just like apply to the VC's internships and VC jobs because they might be looking for someone really, really specific. It could be a specialist like Triin says, or it could be someone who's really deep into research, really academic. And one thing that Triin mentioned is really going to the VCs beforehand and like during your application process, like try to meet with them, try to get your name in their head because this is really important. Why is because 80% of VC jobs out there is kind of like a communications role, as in like it's sales in a way where you really network with people and you have to understand the way of networking. And what better to show that than really going to like the decision makers beforehand and saying like, hey, I have a really good interest in this VC internship. I have a really, really amazing interest in this VC job, and showing that you actually care by, doing your research, obviously, and doing your research about them as well, which is like, hey, this person, this partner at a VC firm or something is the decision maker of who's going to approve this VC intern as an intern. So I'm going to go to that person, see if I can get a coffee chat, see if I can possibly meet with them for 15 minutes. Um, and if you actually did that, you and you booked that meeting, you did that meeting, you're already in like top 1%, like actually top 0.01%. So it's really, like going back to what Trent says, it's really initiative as well. Um, you have to show that you're really good at networking by showing that you're not afraid for getting no's from VCs because VCs and people in their jobs, they're obviously like busy. So if they're gonna spend like 30 minutes of their time, then it's gotta be for something, like they're investing something, whether it's because they think you have good potential or they just vibe with you. Like if you saw that they did like hockey, ice hockey or something, and you're like, hey, I'm also an ice hockey player. So they might actually chat with you just because of that similar experience where, ice hockey is such a extreme, athletic sport where you have to take tons and tons of hours of practice, and they understand that grind. So it's really just like you have to research the decision maker beforehand, try to get a meeting with them, and then your chances will really be improved a lot. Um,
Yeah, just to add, yeah, to what you just said about like putting in the effort, like for startups, even getting an internship or job opportunity, you often have like one shot. So make sure that you do it right. So we sometimes get videos. So for the part of application process in 101 fellowship is recording a video of you telling a little bit about yourself and why you want to get in the program. But we get also a bunch of videos um, that are not made for this purpose. So some people link their TED talks. I mean, very impressive, have nothing bad to say, but this doesn't really show us. It shows that you're a capable person doing cool stuff, but it doesn't show us what we're looking for, why you want to get into VC and why you're a great candidate. So yeah, make sure you do your research and actually put in the effort of answering what's asked, and even the little simple things like making sure that the link is working, etc. Like at the beginning of the application process, we might have time to like follow up and say that links are working, etc., are not working, etc. But we have like hundreds of applicants, so if this little glitch is a reason, then yeah, it's just a shame, So just kind of make sure that the I's have the dots.
yeah, and this really important point that you mentioned, I almost forgot. But can you talk about like the type of questions that you would kind of be asked in like VC internships? So, for example, could you talk about the questions that the application really asks you and VCs would kind of look for?
The usual questions we ask is to the introduction of the person, then why the person wants to become a VC, and why they think they have the qualities and skills to become VC. So it's actually very broad questions and opportunity to say anything about you. And I agree with you, so that like little personal touch about like hobbies and what the person really passionate, also shows a lot about the personality and what they like.
I know that, VC could be pretty tough as long hours and stuff. And knowing what it truly is, who is VC not for?
I think everybody should understand what they love to do and what they want to do. So VC has so many different roles. I think the uh, the idealized, or what everybody thinks VC is all about, like going to networking events and drinks and hanging out, and or the other part is like a finance bro who is doing like some deep analysis with like big Excel sheets on like three different like screens. There are also a lot of boring, what is like not boring for everybody for everybody, but can be perceived like boring compliance work, organization of like CRMs. So there are so many different functions that the VC team has to cover. So I think it's very important to understand what you love to do, what fulfills you, how you function, and then pick whether some positions in the VC are for that or are not. So I actually wouldn't limit it, saying that if you are introvert and don't like talking to people, then this is not for you. Like there's a lot of work on the background that needs to be done by the people who like to work on their own and don't necessarily like to go to big networking events like every week. So I don't think there are limits, but I think the key, like in any other job, is to try it out and see and be really truly honest with you, if that's something you're passionate and you love. Because I think we often also force ourselves to think that, oh, now I got this like shot, now I have to like it. Like especially all these like I feel like this is also very very hard industry to get your foot in. So it can be hard sometimes to be honest to yourself that like, oh, I don't actually really like it. But we've had actually fellows who, after the fellowship feedback, they've said that like, actually I always thought that I really really like want to do VC, but now when I've seen it, I want to build something on my own. I don't want to be VC. I want to be an entrepreneur. So one fellowship, or actually any other like internship opportunity you get, and where you can see the real world inside out, I think is a good way for any young talent to test it out and see if it's something you actually want to do.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that people really don't understand as well is, even if you go to college and then you study a major, you might actually think like before choosing that major, you're like, this is a major for me. I'm not going to do anything other than this type of majors industry for my job in the future. But then when you actually go into that major and then you do like an actual internship, like it has to be an actual internship, hands-on, of that industry, you're like, wait, I actually don't like this, or at least it's not suited for me. But when you really do and you find your calling, and VC is kind of like that as well. It's like you never know it until it finds you. So, I mean, Trin, how she got in, she mentioned is her friend actually kind of just said, hey, we kind of need a VC. You seem like you're a good fit. Are you down? And Trin's like, yeah, heck yeah. It sounds amazing. I've seen tons of VC type of numbers, all that type of stuff. And I've worked with VCs when I was in law. So yeah, it sounds like a pretty good industry. I'm interested. Let's do it. And now she's here. I know you mentioned a bit about the different roles and how everyone can actually be in VC. There's not someone who cannot be in VC. So could you talk more about the different roles in VC, maybe platforms, stuff like that?
Yeah, I think the most like popular role, or what people really want to do often, is investing. So there are different levels like investment analyst, senior, junior, whatever. Partners are the ones who get part of the carry, so they share the profits. But I often see that. Even if the goal is to become an investor, or actually to do investment decisions with the whole investment committee in the VCs, usually younger fellows have to work their way up there. So they start often with some more like administrative roles, like it can be a platform management. Um, it can be also compliance, but I feel like compliance is something that it requires also specific background and training and education. So it's rather rare that compliance switches to investment, but it's not impossible. Um, so yeah, and any kind of like administrative functions, like somebody has to handle the whole LP and investment database, and these things are very high volume. So and this is something also that partners never want to deal with themselves. They really want to have somebody who they know they can trust. Things are taken care, everything's running, and they can focus on big picture. So I think there's a lot of for more junior people, there's a lot of opportunities there. But as you mentioned several times, there's so many ways in it from a different angle also to investment teams. So there's so many different ways in and different positions. And if you are a fellow or intern in a VC and you see what's going on there, you can also think out the position for yourself. You can see what they need, what's not covered. So yeah, I think that's roughly about it. Obviously, bigger VCs like Sequoia, and they have like the whole corporate structure. So the roles are whatever, like HR, um, and anything else you can imagine in any other big corporation. But usually, yeah, the entry to the smaller VCs, I think, starts with more administrative help and fund management topics.
Yeah, and there's just like so much roles in VC. Usually the normal roles or the average roles that people really heard of is like the generalist VC, of the person just like looking at investment decks, meeting with founders, really doing that networking. But really, there is just so much roles in VC. You could be an ESG analyst, which is just like promoting the environmental aspect of the VC firm, or you can be a platform, which is more of the branding. You do marketing, you hold like events for the VC firm, really just like create that community bonding between that VC firm and the founders, and also the VC firm and the outsiders, or all their audience and everything like that. um but yeah, for our audience, definitely really just like check out what VC roles are there and what your talent really fits. Because, you know, especially in VC or any job, it's like you have to make sure that your background experience fits, but you also have to make sure that you want it. Um, like if you want it, but then your background experience doesn't really fit, then it doesn't really work out because VCs, they really want you to hit the ground running. So it's like you take from your background experience, and then you start working on whatever that new initiative it really is. Um, as a VC, what does your typical day or week look like?
So it can be very, very different, but when we're scouting for Antler, for instance, which I also do, then that week can be pretty full on, mostly full on different meetings. So meeting all the ecosystem players. So we talk to other VCs and accelerators about deal flow, how we can share deal flow if they know any cool founders. Antler is a day zero investor, which is also very unique, um, unique place to be compared to most of the VCs, which means that Antler invests pre-product, sometimes even pre-idea. So we're looking for founder material. So it's even people who might not have their company yet, but who want to build something. Yeah, meetings, big part of the week, like with both other like VCs, ecosystem players, and also people who are interested in building themselves. I'm mostly based in Baltics right now. So since Antler is just entering in the Baltics and we're trying to get the word out, we also speak a lot with media, podcasts, newspapers, spread the word and information to media. And then on top of that, I'll also still try to make time to solve ongoing like legal issues for the VCs or startups with who I work. So a lot of like mentoring and support and actually drafting documents is also big part of my week. But it's a very big mix of different things, like jumping from one topic to another, which keeps it, keeps it going, keeps it interesting. No day is the same. And I forgot to mention, like, obviously going to events and conferences. This is actually the best way to organically meet people, network. So it's something obviously good to find potential investments or founders, but also as a person trying to break into VC, I think it's a great opportunity to network and build relations. So I know a lot of conferences and events, like their tickets can be pretty pricey, but there are always opportunities to like try to volunteer. Or in a lot of conferences, actually half of the people don't even get the conference ticket, but they just go around for side events. So just go find the side events, like spend your time trying to network. So I think that's uh, part of my part of my work, but I think it's also a very good opportunity for everybody to build a network.
Yeah, and one important thing that Trent mentioned that our audience should really take a look at is going to events. Like even if there are like a price for those tickets, you can actually volunteer for them. Or I've heard of, ton of my friends do this. They basically just like email the event organizers and then say like, "Hey, I'm a student. Could I just join this event?" And, actually, I think 50, 75% of the time, they would just say yes and just give you a ticket. And, that's the craziest thing because you can really leverage that experience or your background if you are a student. Um, but yeah, you talked about meeting founders and how every day and every week is probably different. Could you talk about the top three reasons or the top three things that you look for when scouting founders in Antler?
Yeah, for Antler, as I mentioned, Antler is day zero, which is very specific in a sense that it's pre-product, pre-idea. What Antler also does, part of the program, is to match founders. So we're looking teams, but also actually single founders. The most important thing is the drive to build something, to change the world, to build something that is scalable. So that's what any VC looks for, right? You can have a cool business idea. What actually doesn't matter, what sometimes people think that age is something that, like, oh, I maybe have to already have achieved something or already built something. Obviously, if you're like ex unicorn founder or top 10 employees, that's a very good sign, and that's also a very high probability that you're accepted to the program and will build something. But the most important is still like the grit and drive and like the opportunity to show that you're capable to do something. And the age is just a number. Like, age doesn't matter. In Antler, we've had founders who are like high schoolers up to founders who are in their 60s. So the range is huge. And obviously, like, there is a sweet spot if we average it out. Like, once you've had some experience and ideas, but yeah, that shouldn't restrict the fear of being too young or too old. Shouldn't restrict anybody. We're also looking ideas. Obviously, since it's a day zero investing, we mostly look the founder and the personality and the experience and the drive, but also ideas. So it doesn't necessarily have to be uh, a formulated idea of what I want to do, what I want to do, but at least like kind of a space that you want to explore. So that's roughly about it. So um, investors invest in people mostly, not in products. So that's what we look.
And especially like trend sites, this is for Antler, it really is 0 to 1 process where it's like they have to really invest in the people first. The numbers can, come later, but it's really the type of people who can make the pivots, the type of people who is resilient, the type of people who is, has that initiative of really just wanting to change the world through their ideas. And it could be really, really young people, like Trent says, even the high schooler, all the way to like the average age of an entrepreneur, which is like 50, I guess. And it's just amazing how, nowadays you've got like Cursor, you've got like Mercier. It's just like full of young people who are like billionaires kind of in a way, because they are unicorn companies. So it's insane. It's just insane how anyone can become a founder. Uh, I'm curious because you mentioned like high school. How would that actually like work? Don't they have like, school? Is it part time or do they just take a gap year?
How Antler usually works is there is a program like residency program where the founders have to go together. Then they work really intensely for 10 weeks. Um, so that's where the founders have to be present. So I think like schools these days are also very flexible. If it's a couple of months, and the person is like very talented and has his grades in order, I think there's so many people also traveling with their families. So I don't think that's actually an issue, especially for a person who is so driven and has ideas. Like I think he's way ahead of average of their age, and he'll find his way or her way with the school.
Yeah, and being really, really young is also an edge where it's like you really bring these fresh perspectives to the industries that has been just like unchanged for so long because the people who's leading it is the exact same age where they have the exact same thoughts because they're in the exact same generation. Um, Looking ahead, what is some trends in venture capital you're most excited about? You have 10 plus years in advising companies in the gaming industry. What is being overlooked in the market right now?
Yeah, that's not maybe only gaming specific, but overall, I'm really happy to see that the number of female VC founders as well as overall founders is raising. It's raising slowly, but it's raising. Like there's a lot of data actually showing how diverse teams perform better. So I think for there was a Harvard study that stated that female led VCs actually have like 1.5% higher returns compared to uh, only male led VCs. Also, the exits from female led VCs are like 9.5%. So that's not only female, but if there is a female involved. So there's a lot of data actually that diversity um, is very beneficial for performance. So there's just more diverse questions, and also the female tech is in the race, like wellness space. In the gaming, there are different games for that female audience prefers. So if the VCs have females on board, that really supports exploring this, and overall like extending your horizon. Like the more different people you have, not only talking about males and females, but also different age groups, it just expands the horizon of the market and what different groups like, and that just more returns for everybody. So I'm really glad to see this data, but the reality is still slow, and the reality is still like sad in a sense that women VCs do get like a fraction of funds that male-led VCs do. So there's a long way to go, but that's definitely something I'm really passionate, and even one-on-one fellowship, I'm really happy to see like the number of girls that VCs pick as their fellows, and how successful they are as well in this like traditionally male dominated field. And it's not that we send the VCs like girls that like, hey, pick girls. Like we send them a mix, so it's really up to them who they pick. And another big topic I see like overall in the startup and tech space, I guess everybody sees it, is obviously AI. But what I see that is overlooked and that personally concerns me, I'm a big nature girl. I love surfing. I like skiing. I love nature. Is the energy consumption and the energy demand that has actually skyrocketed because of AI. I just had a chat with an engineer in energy space who works in hydrogen and used to work in oil and gas, and he said that if we deleted the AI part, we would actually be on track with the fight against like climate warming. But now the energy demand with AI is really skyrocketed, and I don't see as many solutions. I love AI, and I think it's definitely future, but there are a lot of things we need to tackle.
You know, what you mentioned, one point, VC firms with more female partners has like 1.5% higher fund returns and 9.7% more profitable exits. That's amazing because it's like the demographic, or at least a ratio of VC male to VC female uh, fund managers is just crazy. It's like 8-1, or actually 8-2, or something like that. Um, could you talk about how gender diversity actually impacts investment decision making? So, what is like the way that female versus male thinking really contributes to that number?
There's some data, especially it's analyzed, that the questions that female versus male ask are quite different. So female often focus on like community building, long term growth. So that's what leads to the long term success of the startups. So just very different approach on what's looked in startups. And I guess it's also like the personal interests and the space that is specifically created for women. I think it's also natural that also male-led startups get a lot of more funding, because if the investors are male, that's their word. They can like relate, they can see, but the female part there is missing out. So if it's whatever femtech products, like it takes a it takes a lot for the guy to get themselves up to date with the matters, versus a woman, it can be quite natural part of their lives. Um so I think it's just a natural gap, which I think it's gonna change. It's gonna take a long time, but it will.
Yeah, like you mentioned, this is actually a kind of big gap in a way where it's like um, VC female managers for funds, they actually really do have an advantage where it's like there's so much femtech out there. There's so much stuff that only like females are a majority, favorite for. And it's like, females like things that are different from males for the most part. And there's just like, personal favorites. So in these different industries, if there's female VC managers who invests and knows that's important. Like really actually knows how to invest in the right companies for those type of products, for those type of industries that females really enjoy, then yeah, the returns are just naturally gonna be more. So this is a really, really important trend that you mentioned. I know you also mentioned the energy industry where it's like AI nowadays, like data centers, they can literally just like take all the electricity from the grid and just like wipe that out for an entire country, even for the US, in just like 1 or 2 days. And that's just insane. Like, if we take out AI, which is probably not going to happen, but if we do, we can actually solve global warming. So that's why, VCs also has that responsibility in a way to be really investing in companies that will make the world more sustainable, the world um, reduction in climate change. And you guys are also an European impact fund, so you guys also do that for Go Beyond Capital. Um, and yeah, these trends in VC that you really see is just amazing because the returns that oh my gosh, I'm still thinking about it. Like the returns that we would have if that ratio between female and male VC managers are kind of balanced out would be just awesome. I know you talked a bit about how to break into VC. For our viewers and perhaps lawyers who needs an actionable plan to implement right away, what would be your recommended 6-month plan to fully break into VC?
So the first month, apply to 101 fellowship or get yourself an internship. So find yourself a place where you can see it inside out. Then month 2 to 4, do the work, give your all, really, because I think even with 101 fellowship, I think the success rate of the fellows is like 50-50. So do what you say you do, be proactive, really give your 100 for that limited time, and then ask yourself, is that what you really want to do? Is that what you like? Any job has its like good days and bad days, but I think it's always good to do a little self check if that's something that you thought that's really cool and attractive, or if it's what you actually like. And then fifth and 6 months, once you're already like done with your fellowship internship, start looking for actual. So keep building your network, keep educating yourself in the sphere, but I think, yeah, the most important thing is being in touch with people, finding the ways to be useful, even if they're industry events. Go volunteer, go network, try to help. Then sooner or later a door will open. Sometimes faster, sometimes slower, but just keep, yeah, doing the work. And I think networking and really building a network and being useful is the most important to succeed.
Could you talk about the timeline for the hiring timeline for one-on-one fellowship? I'm pretty sure, our audience, some of them are students and they would like to hear that.
Yeah, we will open applications for the next cohort very soon, in April. So keep your eyes open. Follow 101 Fellowship on LinkedIn. Follow me on LinkedIn. And the actual program will start late August, September. So that's actually subject to confirmation with the VCs. But we are going to start going through the applications and looking for candidates already this month. So keep your eyes open.
Yeah, and I'll definitely drop the One Fellowship website in the description so you guys can really just apply to it. Um, Now for a few rapid fire questions to wrap up, a few words or a sentence. Ready?
Ready.
What is the best book you've read recently?
Might sound funny, but Arnold Schwarzenegger, Be Useful. I actually recommend audiobook.
Best in any startup from the past, which one would it be?
Being a little bit patriotic, but that would be wise.
What is your favorite part of working in VC?
Um, Getting a front row seat to how the future is being built, like one crazy idea at the time.
I know you and Kadri love crunching the numbers, due diligence, and compliance. But yeah, what is a place you would love to travel to but haven't yet?
Japan. I think Japan's like a wild mix of tradition and tech. So I that's actually in my bucket list. So would love to have some traditionally grown matcha served by crazy robot talking to me and getting my, you know, serving me the bill. So
Sounds fun. That was amazing, Trent. For anyone listening who wants to learn more about you or your firm, what is the best place to reach you?
LinkedIn, yeah, follow 101 Fellowship, Gobeyond Capital on LinkedIn, and me, Triin Tigane as well. You can find me with LinkedIn, and happy to connect with anybody.
Yeah, and just for our audience, Trent is also a key decision maker in the application process. So if you're applying to the one-on-one fellowship, definitely reach out to her to show your initiative. I'm definitely gonna drop all your contact details in the description. Out of everyone you know, who are two amazing VCs that you recommend as future guests to our podcast?
I recommend three. I recommend the founders of 101 Fellowship, Gert Silatz, who serial VC founder, and one of the sharpest person I know personally, and very lucky to have her as my mentor. Then my other mentor, Kadri Harma, who is also partner in several VC funds, Gobeyond Capital, Sisu Game Ventures, the best networker on earth. Going to any networking event with her is pure fun. It's just so much laugh and she knows how to build ecosystems and communities. So I think you guys should also follow Gert and Kadri, and obviously Paul Bragiel. He's one of the OGs of the tech world. I think he was one of the first 10 persons who had YouTube account. He's been like at the birth of many cool startups in Silicon Valley, and his global network and involvement in VCs in the US, in Africa, in Europe, in Asia. This guy just like covers the whole world. He's no bullshit, but he's also really fun.
Thank you again, and thanks to everyone who's listening. Comment a question you want to hear from our next guest. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to press the subscribe button, like, and share it with someone who's interested in getting into venture. We'll see you next time on Break into VC.